Rob Zombie has a new album coming out on the 27th. Derek, put on your boots. Let's make some noise. This is a rad album. I'm very excited about it. I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts on this.
Well, anytime that you have an album that's called Punks and Demons,
yeah,
probably going to be good, right?
Yeah. Or a single anyway. The album is called The Great Satan.
Yes. Did I call it an album?
I think you did. I don't know. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. How much are you token up here for this, you fucker? But hey, listen, we've talked a lot recently about bands returning to form. Mm-hmm. And there has been a lot of bands, the Deftones, their last record, Private Music, felt like a return to form. This is absolutely Rob Zombie's return. And I have a theory, and we'll get into it in a little bit, but this feels like a Rob Zombie, White Zombie record from the 90s and early 2000s.
Very, very much so. And we're going to talk about why right now, because the current band lineup, of course, Mr. Rob Zombie, Mike Riggs is back on guitars and backing vocals, Rob Blasko on bass, and Ginger Fish, the phenomenal Ginger Fish, on drums. The lineup is super solid. It's a heritage lineup for Rob Zombie, maybe. But yeah, you said this the other day. Those guys coming back, man, true return to form for Rob Zombie.
Riggs and Blasko, I remember when White Zombie disbanded, because I went and saw Pantera and White Zombie at a show in Connecticut, and it was awesome. And I remember Rob saying, you won't see us together on stage for a very long time. And this was their last tour. We never saw White Zombie on stage again after that tour. And so when Riggs and Blasko started and they did Hellbilly Deluxe, I was very cynical. I was like, how do you become better than White Zombie? And frankly, that record was right on par with White Zombie, if not even better. And you can see that, Dragula is like right up there as one of his hits. And the record had stood the test of time for me, the Sinister Urge, and then the wheels fell off. And that's when Riggs and Blasko started leaving the band. They brought in John 5. And I'm going to say this, John
potential
5.
Potential unpopular opinion here.
Yeah, I'm going to get roasted for this. John 5 is a fantastic musician. He is amazing. But did he fit the perpetual Halloween juggernaut that is Rob Zombie? And I would argue that while he can finger tap with anybody, and his style of music just kind of turned him, I used to call it jungle boogie music. Mm-hmm. And for me, it really fit. When I was in Tampa, I went and saw them with John 5, and every song that came on that was recent that John 5 wrote with Rob, people were going to light a cigarette, taking off to the bathroom, going to get a slice of pizza or a beer, and then they come back for the songs that they know and they love from way back. And I don't feel like Rob with John 5 was writing music that was going to stand the test of time. It wasn't what Riggs and Blasko brought to the table, which is hard-hitting, thundering, making your heart race, pounding, nasty music that's in your face and industrial.
Yeah. Well, I pulled up some stats that are going to kind of bolster your position here. Yeah, let's see. The Sinister Urge, 2001. That album went platinum. Riggs and Blasko. Astro Creep, double platinum. Hellbilly Deluxe, triple platinum. Not so many accolades at that level without those guys in the band. And that's not to discredit anything Rob does. Rob's fantastic. But like you said, sort of the assemblage, having John 5 in the band for a while, it did change kind of, not the tone necessarily, but it changed the flavor of the band. And there have not been such hugely performing records in the time that John was with Rob. So again, not to discredit him as a player, he's great, but it just changed the flavor of Rob Zombie.
Don't dispute it. It never felt real, like real Rob Zombie to me. Mm. And this feels like your evil uncle who you never know if he's going to take off his pants or he's going to behead a dog at your family reunion, just return. But you love the guy, right?
Yeah.
He just is, for me, he's back from the dead. He's been so irrelevant for so long. And I just, I'd give every album a chance. I just didn't feel it. It didn't feel the way that White Zombie made me feel as a youngin', and as Rob Zombie made me feel coming into adulthood and working. Demonoid Phenomenon. I remember, I don't know how many times sitting in traffic, in Boston, trying to get home and going 20 miles and taking an hour and a half and blasting Demonoid Phenomenon on repeat. There hadn't been songs like that. But this record, Heathen Days, love it.
Yeah.
Just can't get enough of it. There's a lot of really good material on here.
Yeah, let's go through track by track. But before we do, I'm wondering if, Rob has always been a very, very busy guy. If he's not making music, he's making films, and he's gotten a lot. I didn't bother writing down the accolades he's received for films, but he has received a ton of them, and he's made some great movies. But just real quickly, in '95, best hard rock video at the VMAs for More Human Than Human. 2013, he won the Golden God Award, honoring his status as a legend in the hard rock and metal community. 7 Grammy nominations, 94, 96, 97, 2 of them in 97, in 2000, 2004, and 2009. Again, that's just the musical career. He was awarded an Igor Award in 2009 for his contributions to the horror genre, which is, of course, sort of inextricably linked to his musical career. But maybe he just moved his focus over to the visual arts and the film side of his life while he was working with John 5, and maybe he took his White Zombie, Rob Zombie-ness and diverted it to movies during that time, and now he's back on the musical front a little bit more. But this record is so strong, and like you said, it feels like an instant Rob Zombie classic.
Yeah, FTW 84. There's a video coming out for that. It might already be out. I haven't seen, but great song, hard hitting, industrial. Just a great way to kick off a record. Again, I felt the White Zombie vibes.
Yep. Great rigs and blasko riffs in that song. Starts off with a cool, very cinematic intro to it, which is a common theme throughout this entire record. There's so many cool little short interludes or intros or outros to songs that are very, very cinematic in nature, which makes perfect sense given Rob's body of work. But man, on the production side, before we go too deep into the track by track, on the production side, one of the things that always impresses me with bands is when they're able to take not disparate, but, different enough elements, and make them work really well together. And we've talked about a lot of bands over the years that have successfully done that. Rob Zombie, this album in particular, I think has done exceptionally well, where they're able to blend all different manner of synths and keyboard tones, spoken words, all kinds of audio elements, and blend them in perfectly with your traditional hard rock heavy metal instrumentation, guitar, bass, screaming vocals, hammer and drums. So the production on this record is really, really great. Produced by Zeus, who he's worked with for a long, long time. It is just a great record. But yeah, let's run through it. We have an advanced copy, so we've had a chance to get to know the record. As you said, FTW 84 is a great album opener. Moving on to Tarantula, track 2. All hail Tarantula.
All hail. Groovy. Just a groovy song. It's a little bit more slower pace, but beefy, chunky.
Chuggy goodness.
And and you can't have a song called Tarantula and have it suck.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a musical term called a pedal tone, which is where there is sort of a long sustained note, usually a lower register note, and then the melodies change over that long prolonged lower note. And the majority of this song for me has that vibe, and I don't know, I can't really nail down an adequate descriptive for it other than it is so awesome and it works so good. The chosen samples that he used, the spoken word samples that get dripped throughout this song. Super, super cool. The end has a fantastic short slowdown. I mean, it was one of the first tracks. This is only the second track of the album, but it was one of the first ones that really spoke to me almost as much as the third track, I'm a Rock and Roller, which is a single that's been released already. But that one, that was the first single, and then the first track on the album that really zapped me right back to classic Rob Zombie, White Zombie feels.
Yeah, I was born down in a ditch, a rotten motherfucker and a son of a bitch. He has not been this rebellious, dark, spooky Herman Munster, but smaller character in a while. And a lovable one at that. I mean, Herman Munster was lovable, but Rob Zombie, his stage presence is like this. He's like a werewolf man, but he fills the stage. He's all over the place, and he looks like a monster every time you see him play. And hearing him say these words again, it's rebellion. And rock and roll and metal needs to be a little bit dangerous, and he got his danger back.
He definitely did. That leads into the fourth track, Heathen Days, another single that's already been released. Another banging Rob Zombie track. Has some Ministry vibes for me, which stands to reason. He and Rob Zombie and Al Jorgensen have, I don't know that they've collaborated technically speaking, but they have been in each other's realms for many, many years. Rob has cited Al as an influence on a number of occasions. So it stands to reason that there might be some Ministry flavors on this record. That is one of the tracks that definitely has it.
Thought the same thing and love it. I've been cranking that. By far my favorite track on the record. Fun fact, I went to Halloween Horror Nights at Universal a few years ago, and Rob Zombie had theme at it, and they had like go-go dancers and spooky things from his horror realm, as well as playing his music all throughout the theme park. What I noticed is they really didn't play much after the Sinister Urge, and when I listened to these first four tracks, it really there's about 6 or 7 songs on this record that could have been played at Halloween Horror Nights, but they played it safe and they played their the White Zombie material that everybody knows, and on the albums of White Zombie that everybody knows, and then the same thing with the first 2 Rob Zombie records, and then mixed in some of the live material as well. For me, this record absolutely could have been played at that Halloween Horror Nights that was themed Rob Zombie.
Yeah, that's so cool. I agree. It's one of my favorites on the record. Close to the top, though, is the next track. It's called Who Am I? It's a short 35 second little interlude, some wild synth happening underneath, and spoken word on top of it. And I am so taken with this. It took Rob 30, and I don't know who is doing the spoken word part over the top, but it's 30 seconds that accurately and very directly illustrates like an absolute crisis of the soul, which it was unexpected. And it's, I don't know, I don't want to say it's deep, but it's kind of deep, it's, and I don't want to give away all the lyrics. I'll let the listener experience it on their own on the 27th, but it's like reading a book and getting to the end of the book and realizing that the last 10 pages are gone and you have no idea how the story ends. That's sort of what I took away from this. And I don't know, I wouldn't say that it resonated with me in terms of lyrical content or spoken word content, but it was just a really powerful little punch in the top quarter of the album. And I think it's a super cool track. I'm excited to hear what other people think about it. What did you think about it?
It felt like falling off a cliff and just ending.
Yeah.
That's it. Anything future or forward ceases. And I love that falling off a cliff with art. And it was such a cool track. And I could see the Duffer Brothers who created Stranger Things being really, really into this track. And even I could see them taking it and running with it, creating some crazy show. But awesome track.
Yeah. Next one up, Black Rat Coffin.
Yeah, this one didn't sit too deep with me. For me, it felt like a filler. It was okay.
Not my favorite either, but again, it's got that old school White Zombie, Rob Zombie flavor, and for that, I'm always going to, I'm never going to track past it listening to this album. Now, the next one, I am very curious to hear your thoughts on. Sir Lord Acid Wolfman.
Well, I love me the Wolfman and anything Universal Monsters. The track is groovy. It definitely starts off with a real spooky vibe, which I appreciated. And I like the journey that you go on. And it feels like a Halloween song to me.
Mm-hmm. Now, I would never call a Rob Zombie track silly, but I have to believe that Rob and the band had an awful lot of fun putting this song together. It's like a Rob zombified pirate sea shanty of a track. And, it's got a great swing feel to it. It's as different from all the other tracks as I think you're going to get on this record. Still very cool, still very much Rob Zombie, but I just can't believe for a second that they didn't really, really enjoy themselves when they were writing and recording this track.
It's a fun one, and maybe some acid was dropped to try to get through it.
Maybe. Yeah. Yeah, maybe. It's got a weird, even like the very tail end of it, there's like an East Indian melody that pops up like randomly for completely out of context, but because Rob's good at what he does, it still works within the context of the song. Next one.
Yeah, Punks and Demons. We've already talked about this on a podcast, but anytime that you can chant Satan and you can get a crowd chanting Satan, this is just an absolute war cry for the dark side of humanity and Satan.
Yeah.
Love the track. Loved it when we did it. Still love it. I think that this track would be a great intro to the live show, or it could be one of the really good later in the show songs to really get everybody ramped up before you end with the white zombie stuff and Dragula and so on and so forth.
Yeah, it'll be a big crowd pleaser for sure. I think this single came out in October of 2025, which it's neither here nor there, but it does speak to, we're at the end of February now. So that was 5 months ago. And it kind of speaks to what's happening in the music industry and the way that bands release music. We've talked to a bunch of musicians over the years who say, we're not sure how we're going to release this album. Are we going to release it one at a time over the course of a year and a half? Are we going to put one single out and then nothing for 3 or 4 months and then drop the album? So I don't know. The way society consumes music anymore, it's very single based as opposed to album based. And I'm sure that's got to be tough for especially older artists who came up in a time when you only released albums. You might get a single or two on the radio, but, this idea of bite-sized pieces of a collection of songs, we're both older too. We came up when you bought the entire album and that's how you listen to it. You rarely would go, I want to start at track 5 and listen to that 3 times over. No, you put it on at the beginning and you listen through to the end. Again, I'm kind of getting off course with the track by track, but this one was, like I said, we've had Punks and Demons for 5 months now. So it's just an interesting way to share your music with us.
Absolutely. Devilman for me was a White Zombie track.
Yeah,
it felt like that all the way through.
That was one of the songs on the album that I have just kind of, and we do this when we're going to review an album, listen to it a lot. And it was one of the first tracks on the album outside of the singles that had already been released that I was like, I could walk into the room and I knew Devilman. I knew it, which again, that's, I think speaks to Rob's style and his flavor. This is a very prototypical Rob Zombie song. Great song. I'm not knocking it at all. Great one. Next one up, Out of Sight. I'll tell you, Blasko has got the thickest, nastiest bass tone in different parts of this track. And it's like an establishing feel that carries the song for much of it. He does change up his tone, so it's not like an all-out assault from beginning to end. But lot of great tonal choices with the guitars and basses and synths on this record. This is one of the ones where Blasko, it's just like, that's Rob Blasko, and I love it.
This track made me want to go sit at a bar, drink beer, and play pool. And I don't know why, but it just, that's where I got to. It gave me that strong desire to be in a bar with, listening to this thing really loud. Yeah.
Well, be interesting to see. Again, when it comes out, I hope that some folks will tell us if they think we were right on and get our listeners' thoughts. It shouldn't take long. There's only 3 of them out there anyway. But it's an interesting take from, an interesting, put you mentally in that spot at the bar. But
well,
who knows?
I mean, I wish there was a metal bar that, you could go to and listen to this stuff.
Yeah.
But, you're lucky when you go to a bar to get Metallica, and most of the times people are like, oh my God, it's so heavy. But
that's too
whatever.
loud. It's all just noise.
Yeah, it's not Led Zeppelin for the 10 millionth time. Like, okay, if I have to hear Black Dog one more time, like, my God.
Yeah. That takes us to Revolution Motherfuckers. Definitely one of my favorites. Oh, sorry. Go right ahead.
No, I mean, it has motherfuckers in the title. Like,
right there in the name.
And it look, it's a classic, white zombie feeling, Rob Zombie feeling track. I love the tempo in it. Definitely just a very groovy track. And, you can't go wrong with it. I got this far into it and I kept waiting for fillers. And for me, the only filler to this point was Black Rat Coffin. I just wasn't feeling that track. But I was like, you know what? They got a cool title. It's probably going to be a filler. It wasn't.
Mm-hmm. No, not at all. Ginger Fish, the drummer, gets to stretch out a little bit here. He is a great drummer by any measure anyway. And it was cool that, it has kind of a straight ahead feel, but Ginger knows how to move around the kit and really add a lot of flourish in, brings a lot of life to what could be looked at as more of a straight ahead drum part for the song. They also do some cool stuff with, counting in this song. There's sections where it's a 3-bar count instead of a 4-bar count, but it doesn't do anything to detract from the feel and the way the song moves along. It's very, very cool. Definitely one of my favorites on the record.
I hope we can get somebody from the band on, maybe, hopefully, so you can start talking about gear and some of these different choices musically.
Yeah, for sure.
What'd you think of Welcome to the Electric Age?
This is a shorter track, sort of an interlude kind of thing. As the interludes, it wasn't one of my favorites. I like it. I don't love it as much as some of the others, but I still think it's a cool track. What'd you think?
Yeah, I felt like it was a toss away. It was one of those things. It's like, okay, they're filling time. And look, when you have a title called Welcome to the Electric Age, I thought of something pretty damn epic and with electric guitars, right?
Yeah.
And it was okay.
Okay, very good. Black Scorpion. Punk zombie at its finest.
Yeah, it absolutely felt very punk rock to me. Not my favorite track. I started thinking to myself, okay, we're getting near the end of the album here. I'm sure that they wrote it, realized it's not as good as some of the other material, pushed it down, and I really started feeling like, okay, maybe this track should have been, they should have done like a 10 track record. That was my thought.
Yeah, bit on the filler side. It is interesting that it is, I don't want to say the rest of the album isn't punk, because there is just that rebellious sort of, middle finger in your face kind of flavor throughout the entire album. This one has more of a traditional punk rock vibe to it. Not a whole lot of the, Dragula kind of flavor. It's fast. It's, riffy. Again, it doesn't not sit well on the record. Just maybe not as well as some of the others.
Yep. And I kind of got to the same place with Unclean Animals as well. As I don't know if it started losing me. I kept listening to it over and over again, but it felt like, the record should have ended at Revolution Motherfuckers. But that's just me.
Yeah. Unclean Animals. Great vocal processing, some really cool production stuff on that song. Sort of a slow, trudging track. Has a killer outro to it. And that takes us to the album closer, Grave Discontent. Now, this is a wild little interlude style album closer. It's like Rob Zombie meets Pink Floyd a bit. Yep. Again, very, very cinematic, great synth keys, tonal choices. I thought it was a cool way to end the album, especially after Unclean Animals, which was not totally my favorite, but I think Grave Discontent is a fun song or a fun track and a good way to end this trip back to old school Rob Zombie.
Yeah, it's not bad. I wanted to hear something like, you know how Metallica ended Injustice for All with Dyer's Eve
Mm-hmm.
and ripped your head off. Dear mother, dear father, what is this hell you put me through? Like, it was fast and tons of tempo changes and parts. And, that's what I was hoping for, because I felt like the previous 3 tracks were kind of, not the
not
greatest.
as strong. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I wanted to see another, Heathen Days or Punks and Demons to really close this thing out. It wasn't what I was looking for. That's not to say that I wouldn't give this record an A. It's not to say if we were still grading, I wouldn't give it like an 8, 9 out of 10. I just think that I think they should have taken the top 12 tracks and kept it at that. That's just my personal take. But that doesn't take anything away from it. And these tracks will probably resonate with other people, and it fills whatever void that they have in their musical tastes that don't particularly sit with me, and that's fine.
Yeah, I wonder if Rob's cinema and film experience and work, how much of his cinema and film work influences how he lays out these albums too. Because to me, like, Grave Discontent is what would be rolling as the credits, what would be playing as the credits roll.
Sure.
Sort of as you're gathering your stuff up at the end. I mean, it's super cool. It kept my attention because, again, I was like, man, this is Rob Zombie's Pink Floyd. Which, again, I may get taken apart in the comments for that, but that was what I felt. I love the record. I'm glad that we get some old school Rob Zombie. Blasko Riggs in there again is killer. Gingerfish, great drummer. It was fun to hear him, go nuts a little bit on this. So I'm super psyched that the world's going to get to hear it. I'm even more happy that we got to hear it sooner. So yeah, it's been a fun couple of weeks listening to this album.
The Great Satan. It is a return to form for one Rob Zombie, and if you were a fan of the White Zombie material, it is going to be for you. It is coming out next Friday. I think that's February 28th, and
27th, 28th. Yeah. Let's see. Let's do our homework. Friday is the 27th.
Oh,
yeah.
It is Friday the 27th.
And yes, Monty and the guys and the team at Nuclear Blast knocked it out of the park again.
Well, and Monty I was emailing with him and a little while back, and he said this record is just amazing, and he was gushing about it, and I see why. I can see why. He's a fan of music, anyways. That's why he is running Nuclear Blast, and the bands that they sign. There's new bands like Mull, and then there's older established bands. But what he's doing is he's trying to, I think, encourage them to be their best selves, especially as they age. And this is certainly the case with Rob Zombie. There are other known acts coming out later this year, like Down. I'm hoping that they get back to more riffs and less Southern rock. I'm hoping that Anthrax, when they come back, less melody, more thrash, more chugga-chugga riffs, and a little bit more anger. Like, they feel like they've been very apathetic and complacent for a very long time. And so going back to Rob Zombie, Rob has some juice. He's got something to say on this. And I think that this trend of consistent bands from the past becoming who they were in the past again needs to continue.
Oh, well, you'll get no argument from me. Great record, fun conversation talking about it, and looking forward to the next one, dude.
Likewise.
All right, man. We'll see you, brother.
See ya.